They asked me, do I feel, Miss J said, could I call in? Actually, the way I got it set up, you can't call in on this one, Miss J. You can't, not on this. Yeah, I don't have it set. I don't have it set on this. It says still see you though. Yes. All right, y'all. So I got asked this question, right? And I want to know everybody's viewpoint on this. They asked me, is music making any better now than before? And they were talking about Miss Jackson said, okay, bye. Cause she calling. She said, no, I can't call in. Okay, bye. I'm going to IG. Yeah, Miss J, good. She said, I'm jumping on IG. Jump on IG. But again, shout out to everybody jumping on. If you're just jumping on, this is Dungeon Talk, where we bring you living room conversation and we invite you in. Normally, I'm here with my co-host, Nate, no IG, but most likely he's taking care of some things, so he's off. Yo, D, what's good? So I said it's been too many weeks. I'm getting too many text messages. Everybody's like, yo, Spud, what's up with Dungeon Talk? So I said, today I'm going to fly solo. I'm going to fly solo and give y'all a little conversation I was having with a few people that was actually asking me this question about the music business, about music itself. And they were arguing with me that there are more better fans overall for music now than ever before. And I wanted some of that conversation with y'all, because I got a different take on that. And I come from a different time than music. So I was wondering everybody's take on that, man. So, they were arguing that with the success of like the Drakes and the Lil Waynes, and more towards the Drake, they were talking about how the music industry has gotten to a better place lyrically, business wise, and the fan base. They was like, fans is iller than. And Golden says she disagreed. And of course, you know me, I disagree completely. I completely disagree with that. But his point, and he was going to his point with, how much records they must have been youngsters. Miss J said they must have been youngsters. Yes, they were youngsters. Yes, they was youngsters. Marilyn, how you doing, Marilyn? I just asked about you. Shout out to Marilyn Martinez. Yo, B Lover, I see you. Shout out to everybody jumping on. And he was saying how, these artists are holding records and they're doing this and they're maintaining this. And I was giving him this standpoint, right? Check me out, y'all, before anybody really cue me. But it seems like y'all on my side right now. But check this out, right? Back in the days when an album dropped, right? You had to actually buy it. Like, we're no longer in the time of people buying music, right? We rent music. So it's easier for someone to give something a chance and not be a fan. So viewership now is completely different than when you had to stand on a line and purchase it. Like, when you stood on a line and you bought 2 copies of a project, of a song, a body of work, that was a different fan base thing. That was a different dedication to the art or the music that you would listen to. Now, I paid $10, and then somebody could be like, yo, you heard so-and-so's album is trash, yo, but there's this funny record on it, go check it out. And then I'll just go and check it out. And it won't even be because I really like the song, right? It won't even be because I like the song. It's because I could check it out. And I think a lot of viewership for music has gone in that direction, which kind of downplayed the essence, the dedication of music. And, of course he was a youngster, and, of course he's going to go back into the records. And how, look at that. All Things Adam said, Best Buy. Remember when you had to go to the spot and go get your joint? Tower Records. MJMG said Tower Records. You had to run and go get it. And then sometimes you had to be online. They were seeing online, and there was nothing like peeling off the plastic. And the plastic, especially if it was a CD, because tapes it was much easier, but CD, that fold was really thin. There was nothing like pulling the plastic off, just ripping it, and then it's see-through. You could read You could read the name through the plastic, but you didn't. You waited till you ripped the plastic off to read the back of the cover. I think viewership and fan base had a different passion for it compared to now. I don't think the dedication or the passion. It's like they get so much hits from so much different options without the liability of being a fan. Because now it's not based on the investment of my dollar to the art that I love. It's more like I put my money in this pool and then I get to listen to everything. And I think that separates how the viewership and the fan base is and the appreciation for the art. Yo, Tony Bosco, what's good? Now peep this, like for artists, right? The artist is working on an album. They spend, say, $100 a session. They probably do like 12 sessions for a record, right? Then they do videos. They probably pay from $300 to $3,000 on a video. Then they got the promotion and the time that they spend. And then they put it on streaming platforms, right? And then we stream it. And then it don't even accommodate for the investment of what they put in it. That's because the value of how the fan base and the viewership respects the art. Anybody out there right now listening, do you feel, yo, Berg, what's good? Much love, Berg, I see you. My man said, what up, bro? Yo, you back in town, Bosco? Do y'all feel that the fans really respect the art this day and age? Like we talk a lot about the industry, right? The majors, are how brutal they have been to the independent artists, or how crucial and how hard they've been. We talk about that all the time, and we understand that. I'm not sitting here trying to argue that they're not. But the viewership, regardless of how much the industry can solidify or restructure itself to respect the artist, I think there's two parts, and one part we don't talk about, and that's the fans appreciating the work. Like, is people don't even want to be called fans no more. It's like you competing, and I blame social media. I swear I blame social media. It's like we're competing with the fans for the cool. Like, fans are too cool now. They just too cool to just say, yo, I'm a fan. Unless you super successful. You know what I mean? You super successful. And that's the part that really damages the music business. And when I say the music business, I'm not talking about the music industry. It's two different things. I could sell music on the corner. I'm still doing music business. I think that damaged the music industry. And I don't think we as fans of music, as well as creators of music, really balance those two. Miss J says social media makes people stupid. Oh man, I can see that. Social media has really interrupted the mind frame of a lot of individuals and people on how we go about things. Berg said fans don't want to spend money. They want freebies. Yes, that's true. Fans want freebies. But let's keep it real, y'all. Let's keep it real. We added to that. Like, one thing that interrupted the music business was convenience. And I stress this, when Napster came out, I wasn't home for it. I was locked up when Napster came out. But when Napster came out and we wanted file sharing and the MP3 and all that, and we were going crazy for that freebie, we interrupted a process to a field that we possibly want to play in. So it's like we looted the store and then went across the street and opened up the same type of store we looted from, and then we're wondering why we having a hard time selling, because the looting is free. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that to say there wasn't a lot of remarkable things that it did and opened up the door for independent artists. I'm not saying that at all, but what I am saying is we love to the convenience. Especially in the business that we are in, we like the convenience until the convenience is on us. You know what I'm saying? And that's the suck part. Bosco said fans want to be stars now as well. Yeah, we was just speaking about that. Like, you're almost competing against your fans. Like, it's a wild thing. MJMG on Instagram said, Tim says technology makes people stupid. It does. Technology does take away a lot of our motor skills. We can't go anywhere without a GPS. That's true. We rely on GPS a lot. How many phone numbers do we remember? Remember back in the days, you had to remember mom, uncle, brother, the school, your job. Now we know one phone number, maybe two, and most people only know theirs, and that's it. So it has made us reliable on these devices and taking away our skills and our abilities to do things. And that's one of the parts with convenience. And I say all this to say, for creatives that's on and anybody that's on right now with the convenience, be careful about the conveniences that we want to enjoy, because those same enjoyments that we want to have the conveniences in might be the same things that ruin us. And it happens time and time again, especially in the music business, but it has happened time and time again. We're complaining about streams now. Yeah, all our Napster users, all of us who taken in such activities, open the door for such things. And I say this to say is, in the next 5 years, we will be having a new conversation, and it will be around the idea of AI in the music business, and how mad we're gonna be when it progresses in its convenience for music creation, not music business. You know what I'm saying? Is music creation is gonna morph, and there's gonna be an evolution in the creation. And the business always, every evolution, the business gets left back. It gets left back. And that's a hard part that a lot of us don't understand when we want that convenience. So I was telling that young boy, going back, if you just jumping on right now, I was talking about a young brother who told me that music now was much better for the fans, and there's more true fans and viewership now. And he was like, artists couldn't compete with artists now. And I said, well, with technology, there's a lot of things that help you. But back in the days, there was a pure fan base. There was a pure ship to the core of you spending your money. You know what I'm saying? An album drop, when they did the first week sales, they did the first day, first week, first month, and then they did the year. That accommodated and calculated to a financial gain. It was money being made when you had those sales. Now we go to a stream and you hear people saying, like, I went platinum on the streams. I did 1 million streams and I made $3,000. That's a video. That's one music video. And like just having the true life conversation. That can be one music video. That could be a promotional ad for $3,000 for 1 million streams. You know what I'm saying? Ill Chill said, music now is more accessible than it is. It is more accessible. You know what's messed up? Ill Chill. A lot of companies that don't make music is making music. I'm gonna stop this music real quick. I might blow your mind with this, and I want this to be interactive. How much money do you think anybody know who? I mean, we know what SoundCloud is. It's a free platform that we were using before DSPs to get our music out there and our share music. Can anyone guess how much money SoundCloud made 2 years ago? The reason why I say 2 years ago, I don't know what they made recently. I haven't been, but 2 years ago, I did a study, and I did the study for Universal Records. I probably could share what I did too, but I did a study for Universal Records. Can anyone just take a guess right now? Just throw a ballpark number, what you think SoundCloud made, and then I'll go into my point from there. Anybody, I would love to see what y'all think SoundCloud was busting the checks they was getting. It's crazy. 40 million. Miss Jackson said 1.40. No, 500 million. 500. I know record labels that wasn't making $500 million. Now, the reason why I'm stressing this, right? You take SoundCloud that does not make not a near record. Artists submit their music on there predominantly for free. My Berg said 100, he said a billion trillion. Yo, 500 million. So I was doing a study for Universal because I was trying to create something where artists can get, yes, for a free platform. Ms. Jackson said for a free platform. And this is where I was getting at. A lot of companies that have music platforms that are generating a lot of money don't make music. They're not really music platforms. And that was what interjected into the music business. So a lot of companies realize, oh, the independent artist is really eager to have their music heard. It wasn't about making money, because there was a time where we couldn't get heard. So we were so eager to compete in the listenership, we didn't really take care of our business. So these third-party companies came in between, like, you know what? We're gonna let them be heard worldwide. And that's what interrupted the music business. So while, and I'm playing this back to say, this is how convenience we get played. And then, you know, me being a music executive, I always used to argue with artists when they're like, yo, I ain't going indie. They can't give me a check. You know what? Because they robbing me. And I would sit there and I'd be like, all right, cool. And what did you do? Yo, I'm independent. I put my music on SoundCloud. And I was like, which is the best of good evils in reality? You know what I'm saying? We get played, and then we use what we get played with as our comfort zone. Yes, it was 500 million for SoundCloud. Don't get me started with Spotify, because I was running the numbers. Because when I do my presentation, not only do I got to give them facts, I got to give them the source of my information. And I was going directly to, because if you go directly to Spotify, SoundCloud, and you ask, they will release their numbers to you. So I went directly to them to get the numbers because I wanted the most accurate numbers I can get. And they gave me 2 years ago, it was 500 million for a free platform. Unc said we made mad money in the late 80s through the late 90s. Majors was writing them checks. That's what and shout out to Unc that just said that. That was my point when I was talking to a youngin'. He was like, yo, the majors was robbing me. And I was like, my point to him was, I never saw someone get an advance, couldn't pay him back, and went to jail. And he was like, huh? I was like, I never saw someone get a $700,000 check, can't pay it back, and go to jail. And what I was trying to tell him was, yo, at least you got something to jumpstart your joint. You got these companies making $500 million. You putting it up for free. Some platforms you paying a subscription, you know, to put your music up there and to not get commercials or whatever the case may be. And you still making 20 cents, $20, whatever the case may be. And I'm not even saying that to be funny. I'm saying that to say sometimes we don't look at the mind frame of the business compared to what we want to do and share our music. But record labels will give you an advance. They will put you in a predicament of exposure. They'll surround you with, you know, support that'll guide you creatively. There's a lot more things with going the label route. Now, don't get me wrong, it ain't all peaches and cream at the label now. I'm not gonna say that. It does have its bad things, but you could finesse a label. You're not finessing no DSP. Let's keep it real. You're not finessing no DSP. They not putting you on billboards, getting you shows, they not doing none of that. Unc said, yo, streaming bags don't come close to being paid on that radio bag. It's true. It's true. It's a different thing. And I'm just saying this, and I'm not saying, yo, everybody quit dropping your music on DSPs and go major. I'm not saying that as well. But I'm saying as we grow as artists, we have to take into the mind frame, the comfortability, some of the things that we want the comfortability. What's the end goal? And if there's no end goal, it's okay not to have an end goal. I'm hearing everybody, you have to have an end goal. No, you don't have to have an end goal. You don't. But you have to have a now mission. And you got to be able to step in your mission, take your steps and do what you're doing. So for the art, I think we should get back to really correlating the art, the value of what it means to the artist, and then creating those true to life listeners of the viewership. Because the game took its turn. What I'm talking about and what Unc just mentioned about, back in the days, that time has passed. We're in a new venture. We're in a new transition. When CDs came, everybody was upset with CD and the tape and the technology, and it disbanded the tape. You know what I'm saying? When Pro Tools came, it got rid of the reel to rails. And every time something's intertwined into the new, it's gonna change the scope forever. And we're in the change of scope forever. Universal fired 75% of their label. That should tell you something. You know what I'm saying? That should tell you something. So the progression is here, y'all. Ill Chill said artist Just Glenn is gaining a huge fame thanks to Jet 2 holiday TikTok. Yeah, I mean, there's different ways to finesse. There's different ways to grow. You gotta find, as an artist, you gotta find your niche. You gotta find what clicks for you, and don't be fearful, y'all, of. And I'm just saying, y'all, like everybody on here, artists. But as an artist, we can't be fearful of the slow walk. You know what I'm saying? With social media, we go on in and then we hear a story about, this person blew up. Like Ill Chill just mentioned Jess. Doing great numbers, huge. Somebody will see that and they be like, okay, let me jump on the Jet 2 holiday joint. Not realizing that there was a whole transition that led to the Jet 2 holiday that got the progression of the growth. You know what I'm saying? It's not just the Jet 2 took off. It was like, they dropped this, they did this, they tried this, they did this. All those little bits add to when that moment happens. What happens is we don't see the little bits. We see the moment and then boom, we on it. Everybody jumping on it. Everybody riding that wave for that moment and seeing if, this is jumping, this is the way to do it. And it's not that. So don't be fearful to take those steps, y'all. It's important in the growth, man. Unc say, good talking to you, young man. Keep teaching, family. Salute to you, Unc. Much love, man. He said that meme people use in their reels. Yeah, there's a different thing now. If anybody know me with the reels, and sometimes we get lost in the content creation, and the content creation is what they really like. So then you have to really ask yourself, are you blowing off the content creation or are you blowing off the music? And as an artist, it gets real gray because they might go viral for a piece of content and then they associate that they're jumping musically, which is not truly the case. Can be, but not truly the case, because most viewers who watch something, they're not going to social media primarily for music. Music is not the alpha search when going to social media. Music is when you go into Apple, Spotify, you're going there for that. When you go into content, 90% of the time, you're browsing. Maybe 10% of that, or maybe 90 is too high. Let's go 75% of the time you're browsing, right? 75% of the time. And then there's a small percent of the time where you're in search of something. But a lot of things that we come across is either we stumble across it or it's been so much in the algorithm that we're force-fed it. And then we fall into the loop of it. So artists got to be careful with that too, because they might think they jumping. And I could give y'all a true to life. I say it all the time. If anybody knows me, when I talk about the Coil Ray, at Republic Records, we were there when it was jumping. You know, her CEO for the record label, which was Uptown Records, his name was Saint. She had the #1 record. She was going crazy on TikTok. I don't know how much billion interactions and viewerships. Yo, the numbers was like astronomical. Like, they were coming in basically doing cartwheels into the label, so happy. And I was like, yo, you know, I don't think those amount to the record. And they was like, yo, you basically they looked at me and was like, yo, you sound like you hating. And I'm like, nah, I'm not hating. I'm gonna try something. And I went to public schools. And I would play the record. And the kids, I guess there was a certain dance that they did. Girls as players too. They did a certain dance, and they all knew the dance. Like, every time I played it in a school or a venue with the kids, they knew the dance. They was singing it to their core. And then I asked them, yo, who sings it? And I don't think not one. And I went to like 7 schools. Now that's not 100 schools. I went to 7 schools and not one. And if you know anything about statistics, they do for the 1 for 10. Like, one person represents 10. So I don't know how many people I sat in front of and they didn't know. So I ran back to the label. And I was like, yo, listen, the record is taking off, not the artist. And they're like, what does that mean, Spud? You sound crazy. And I'm like, no, the record is taking off. And that was the first time I realized that a record could take off and not the artist. And then she dropped her album, and with all the hype, all the viral moments, all the interactions that she was getting on social media, they solely relied on that. And she only sold 15,000 copies. That was it. 15,000 copies. And they were like, what did we do wrong? And I was like, the record grew legs, not her. So no one associated her success to her. They associated her success, I don't want to say to a meme, but a thread, something treading, something threading, all the, however you want to paint it. You know what I'm saying? Something viral, trending, whatever, however you want to paint it for whatever platform you're on. That's what they just associated with it, not records. And I see slowly but surely, we as artists, we getting lost in the content creation, and our content gets a little action and we go to it, you know. So even with me with content, I really try so hard to keep the content super related to the music. If I'm putting out something that I'm gearing it towards music, I try to keep it parallel. That way it doesn't get lost. Because that's how fast it could really happen. It could happen really fast. And it does. It does happen. It does happen. Somebody asked me if I'm on right now. Yes, we are. But I want to send a big shout out to my co-host, Nate, no IG, he's not in today. Anybody that's on and this is your first time, this is Dungeon Talk. This is where we give you living room conversation. It's normally me and the mad podcaster, as we call him. But he's had a very interesting and busy week, so I know he's taking care of business right now. So instead of letting another day, I was getting a lot of text messages about, yo, what's up with the show? What's going on? I'm flying solo, holding it down just for today. But we be back normally every Sunday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on, well, if you're on TikTok, it's Spud Brooklyn, but on Instagram is Shoe Studio. Also check us out on Monday on Shoe Studio, 9:30, where we give you interviews. We interview artists, talents of all likes. I don't even want to just bucket up. Talents of all likes, from teachers, actors, comedians, musicians, you name it. We interview them. And then Wednesday, if you're an artist, jump on Wednesday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern. We got the A&R desk, where we bring tips live on the show. So we bring you A&Ring right to your phone. That's every Wednesday. But shout it out. So as far as music, y'all, I just want to get a ratio. And this is just my personal. I know, Apple and Spotify is the top ones. Could we just put what y'all listen to? I want to get an idea of what y'all listen to. Where's everybody head at with that before we transition to the next topic? You know what I'm saying? And go from there. On other news, I'm hearing a lot of more conversations about, and I don't want to beat it in the head too far, but the Diddy situation about, is he coming home? Is he not? How many people was feeling that he was? Miss Jackson said iTunes. I know you got iTunes for sure. Yeah, I'm just curious. I'm curious to see what the people got. What the people got. Miss Jackson said YouTube. I just got a text message, and they asking questions via text. They asking questions via text, and I don't know if I'm gonna answer that question. But anyway, the conversation with Puff, we had this conversation, and they were talking about how your legacy, separating the person from the artist or the talent, and how difficult or easy that is. And I notice when it comes to black artists or talents, it's very difficult to separate the artist from the person. But when it comes to other counterparts it's completely different. Ms. Jackson said question above. Ms. Jackson got a question. What's your question, Ms. J? You said how? What was that pertaining to? A free platform, how? How they make their money? That's what you wanted to know. Just clarify. I could get to that. How they make their money, if that's what you're asking. Yo, Nate. Nate IG is on. Yo, what's good, my dude? I hope you holding it down, man. I just sent you a super shout out. I was like, I know you had a busy week, but I was wondering if you was taking it easy or taking care of something. So I was like, yo, we holding it down solo today. I was getting mad text messages if we doing the show. So I said, yeah, I know my man Nate. He ain't get to hit me back, so I know he taking care of business. But shout out to No Nate IG. I was just saying, the mad podcaster. But Ms. J, clarify that question. But I did notice how, and is it easy for others to separate the talent from, the creative? And what I mean by, take the R. Kelly's and his situation compared to what he did or the impact that he might had, or you take a Puff and what he may have did, and you take, does it separate the impact of what they did? Is it easy for anyone to separate that? I would like to hear that from y'all, because I see a trend when it cancel culture don't really pertain to nobody but us in reality. So I was wondering how people felt about that, because I was having a wide conversation about, they were talking about Puff, and they were like, yo, what he did for the culture don't mean nothing no more. And, and I was like, I don't think we could take away what he did for the culture. I'm not going to neglect what he's done in his private life. It tainted what he's done, period. But I don't think the separation is easy when it comes to us compared to everybody else. Ms. Jackson said, what has been the relevant change for you in the industry? You asked a few comments ago. What has been the relevant change for me in this industry, Ms. J? I mean, if we talking about the change in the industry, just the whole concept of how music is being made is the change. Ms. J said, Diddy will be back. I mean, the whole concept of the music, how that is just changed. How we went about music, the dedication of music. When we were being an artist, yeah, there was a period where we wanted to make money, right? But when we were being an artist, we just automatically did the artistry. Like, we dedicated into the art. When you saw someone spitting, there was no separation in his flow. Like, you could tell he lived there. You know what I'm saying? He lived there, quote unquote. He lived there. And now it's kind of like, a lot of artists want to be there. They don't live there, and they don't take the dedication in mastering their craft. They don't memorize their music. Their performance is sucks. Is so much that took a hit in the music industry. I mean, just the music changing itself. And once the artist loses the value of the art within himself, there is no true essence of respect nowhere else. How could we really want the labels, the fans, and everyone to really care and dedicate their appreciation for it when we, and I'm saying we just in general, but we half step? That's what changed for me in this industry. You know what I'm saying? Regardless if the machine was robbing us, regardless of what was happening, but when we was doing what we doing, we lived in it. You could tell the artistry was home. And now I see a bunch of Airbnbs, you know what I'm saying? It looks amazing. There's a lot of people who look great, but they're not home. They're not home in their art. And just talking about it, it just hurts me, man. It just hurts me. Nate says, shout it out, my bro. We'll be back for next Sunday. Have a lot to talk about. Say no more. Co-host Nate said he gonna be here next week. I know it's almost been like a month, man. I was getting phones and calls like crazy about the show, so I was like, yo, let me jump on real quick. Miss J said, you're an artist first. Yes, I am an artist first. That is true. And she said, but I think people don't realize that about you. It appears that you're an industry exec only. Yeah, I'm an artist first. I'm most definitely an artist first. I just learned, when I learned the business, I understood how the machine worked. Once I understood how the machine worked, I started to get the concept of, you know, where I'm placed in that and how much I want to utilize or succumb to it. And Miss Jackson said, how did that transition? So what transition? I tell you a true to life story of when it transitioned. When I first was just being an artist, Jive took a liking to me. And actually, there's a project on the wall right there, One for the Money. That project right there, One for the Money, which will be re-released, remastered. I did that for them. It was for Jive Records. And in the process of writing that project for Jive Records, I did a song that was going on a commercial. It was going on a commercial. And they were like, yo, we're going to give you $16,000 for this record. And I'm like, $16,000? All right, you could take it. I just came home from prison. I had no bread. And they were like, no, we don't want the record. We want to license the record. So I was like, wait, you're going to give me $16,000 to borrow the record? And they were like, yeah. We just give us the information. And I'm like, all right. They sent over the paperwork. I signed the paperwork. Boom. I didn't even have a bank account, y'all. So I get the bank account, got some money in my pocket. I remember going back to the office to finalize some more paperwork. And a lawyer who, I guess he just took a liking to me. He was like, hey, how's that deal going for you? And I'm like, it's great. I own my music. I got some money. I'm all right. And he said, yo, step into my office real quick. And I stepped in his office and he was like, that's good. You own your music. So I got a few questions for you. I said, sure. He's like, yo, what about your foreign rights? I was like, foreign rights? He was like, yeah. You know, the US dollar changes its rate somewhere else. So you got to negotiate your foreign rights. I was like, oh, no. He was like, what about reruns? Did you negotiate reruns for every time they re-aired the show? Or the show gets aired, you get a put. So, nah. And at the time, DVDs was jumping. You know, it was around that whole smack DVD era. So he even asked me, like, so did you negotiate DVD sales? Because, you know, they printing this up as we speak. And I was like, nah, I ain't do none of that. So before I left the room, I said, could you do me a favor now? Everything that you just asked me, because it was almost like Mandarin. It was like he was speaking a whole nother language. I said, could you calculate what that would have looked like if I got all that? And he said, I could give you a ballpark. And it was like $280K. And I was like, there's $280,000 that I didn't get. All because I didn't understand simple and small things. I just didn't understand. I had no clue. Not even understood. It wasn't even that I understood it. I was oblivious to it. And I was like, damn, how can I learn this? And then I realized learning the music business isn't about when it goes great, right? We don't know about the music business when it goes great, because if it goes great, nothing's ever being shared, right? So I was like, I gotta buy some bad contracts. So I was looking up people who got hurt in contracts, from Courtney Love, Prince, Michael Jackson, The Lox. I got DMX's contract. I got LL's first contract. I was just getting contracts of things, of people that I heard. I got a few rock band contracts. I got Blondie's contract when she did it with the Curtis Blow. I was just made a list of contracts, and I went back to all the publishers of the labels, and I went to go purchase these contracts, and this shit fucking came out to $15,000 they wanted to sell these contracts for. Now I just made 16, bro. I just made 16. They're gonna tell me it costs 15 for this fucking bunch of papers. And I remember saying, you know what? I risked my life in the streets doing shit. Like, I went to prison for 13 years and could have died in there. Like, I gambled more than this money, even though that was the most money I saw in my life at that period, right? And I bought the contracts, $15,000 of contracts. You know what it is to be walking with a stack of papers, and it ain't green paper? You just traded it in green paper for some dusty ass prints of another piece of paper? And I was like, damn, did I do the right thing, man? And I said, you know what? I gotta make it the right thing. And I sat and I studied and I highlighted the contracts. And when I came across something that I didn't understand, I had another lawyer, and I would call him, and he would charge me $20 every time I made a phone call. So I had to make the phone call worth it. And I would ask him, what does this mean? Or where can I go look this up, and where can I find it? And I started to get a little bits or pieces of the business. But what it helped me a lot, it wasn't what people helped me learn about the business. It was the stuff that, like, little things that popped up as I'm reading, and I'm like, wait a minute, it says this. Is anybody focusing on that? Anybody focusing on the image may go into domain? If, like, it was little words, and then I started to inquire when I go to the labels for other artists. Hey, we don't want the image to go into domain. We want the artist to retain all images after deal proceeds, blah, blah, blah. And then it was like, wait, how you know that? And I'm like, damn, that was in the contract. And when I read it, it just meant to me that once this deal goes by, they could just throw your name in a box and you can't own it. And I started to learn that way. And a lot of the learning wasn't what I was taught. It was just seeing shit. And like, yo, why they said that? Or what does that mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, when I first saw life insurance in somebody's paperwork, you know what I'm saying? And they put it in real subtle, you know what I mean? The legal licensing of insurance based on the artist's life and livelihood, should that ever be altered? I'm like, wait, your life and livelihood alter means you died. There's a licensed insurance? I went and checked, like, yo, they taking life insurance on these motherfuckers. I'm like, yo, that's crazy. So then start negotiating for artists. Like, yo, if you're going to pull out a life insurance policy, you got to make sure that his wife or his kids, you know what I'm saying, is the controller of that. And then I started to make my way in, and like, yo, this guy knows so much. They started calling me in. So at first, I will say this. They were calling me in with the hopes that I would help them. Now, I did help them in a lot of places, right? But the trick that I did was I would help them enough for them to keep needing me, for me to learn more. And that was my key to keep going into the record labels. Like, yo, I'm gonna help you. What y'all need? Y'all artists, this and that. Oh, y'all need some marketing. And the more I sat there, I started to realize how much that, I'm like, damn, I'm looking up to some of these people. I'm like, yo, they don't even know. There's a lot of things that we look up and we think they know. And then there's a lot of people that we look at and to them it's just a day job. Like, you know how people clock out at the end of the day and they're done? For us, like, music and creativity is like day to day, clock in, clock out. No matter what we doing in life, that's our soul, that's our pulse, that's who we are. And then I started seeing people like clocking out and then, going to happy hour and then like work is done. Like it's done. There was no clock out for me working with the majors. When I came out, I'm doing music, figuring out music, helping artists do music. And that's when I was like, damn, this shit is more callous than we think, because it ain't even like they hate us. It's not even the fact that they hate us or they want to rob us. Yo, we just that convenient job. We that 401k. You know what I'm saying? It's like when we were clocking into jobs, we weren't invested in the company's success. We wanted a check and get the hell out of there so we could do what we could do. And when I saw that in the music industry, that's when I was like, that's the problem. We look at these motherfuckers like they love this, and we be hurt when they rob us, or they hurt when they put those little things in the contract like you don't own your image, or everything is recoupable, or all kind of stuff. It's a business. That changed my whole life. That changed my whole life. As Jackson said, that's why they be killing these rappers. Yeah, they be having two, most, I don't want to say all, but they have two insurances. They have product liability. So they put liability on it. So basically it's like you're a car, bro. You know what I'm saying? And your car get damaged, they get reimbursed for that money, and then they be taking out life insurances. I have seen it slow down. Like a year, maybe longer, maybe like 2 years ago, I have seen it being removed from the contracts because not a lot of people were dying. It's sad to say this, but not a lot of artists were dying, but the amount of life insurances that was being invested in, a lot of artists weren't dying. That's an overhead. They were cutting their costs. They were cutting their costs because they were putting too much money up for artists, especially if they thought they were high risk. So they cut. So I've been seeing a lot less of that. So I don't know how much of it is now. I haven't seen a lot of artists. I haven't been working with a lot of artists who got signed with majors that I had to review their contracts at that stage, or it was offered. So, but I did see it slow down. But that's crazy, right? That's crazy, and some of the most craziest things being contracts that people don't understand. And that's what kills them. You know what I'm saying? That's what kills them. But how can you compete with a $700,000 check? You know what I'm saying? You hungry? They tell you right now, I'm gonna write this check right now for you. $700,000. Take it or leave it. Like, this is for you. Take it or leave it. What we doing? Chances are, what we gonna do? Somebody's gonna sign that shit. I mean, you can't compete with it. You know what I mean? And I understand that. Russell Simmons said something very, very. He said, there is no manual. There is no to-do list when it's an artist getting signed. You know what I'm saying? And this is why it's good to surround yourself with people who got your back. You know what I'm saying? Or even if they don't understand the business, support you enough to find out. You know, a lot of times we don't want to work with someone who's still figuring it out. That's some of the best people to do that with, because they're willing to invest. And not just in music, y'all. I'm just talking about a business plan at the work site, in your household, your significant other. Like, it don't really matter who. Like, if they're willing to invest the time to figure it out, that's gold, bro. That's gold. I'm telling you that right now. I'm telling you that as an artist, as an executive, as a music lover and professional. That's gold. I will take someone who is willing to figure it out and go step by step, probably faster than someone who's solidified and been through it. As a working partner. Not just advice, but as a working partner. I would. I mean, most of the people I surround myself are that right now to this day. You know what I mean? So shout out to the camp. Shout out to everybody working it out. Shout out to the whole SMG right now. If you don't know, man, check out Golden 562. She got a record out right now called Big One. Album dropping very soon. Tomorrow we got K4 and Golden dropping something. Vibes with CJ and K4 done drop something. We shaking some shit up. We shaking it up. But yeah, you gotta be careful, y'all. Y'all gotta be careful in this day and age, and don't be duped. We don't get fooled by luxury. We get caught all the time, man. We get caught all the time. Like I don't think people understand why people are so upset. Like with the Suno, y'all, anybody up to breast with the Timberland shit and the Suno and you know, it's fun and games, it's cool, but fast forward 5 years from now, we're gonna be looking at all these other things, like how we look at DSPs and how they not taking care of us in the artistry. So we gotta be careful, y'all. We got to be careful. But if you're just jumping on, this is Dungeon Talk. Normally I'm here with my partner, Nate No IG. He's out right now. So I was just flying solo, sharing some conversation with y'all. This is Dungeon Talk, where we give you living room conversation and we invite you in. We invite you in. Miss J said, these hoes ain't loyal. Miss J said, these hoes ain't loyal. Speaking of loyal, before we transition on, what is most important to building a relationship? Some people say loyalty, some say respect, like trust. Is there one thing that you hold high and dear more than anything to solidify a relationship? Whether it's a working relationship, whether it's your homie, your man's, whatever the case may be, is there something that sticks out further for you? You know what I'm saying? Is there... shout out to Bernice. Salute to you. Bernice said loyalty. Loyalty is very important now. Now, is it loyalty or dedication? I think sometimes we get loyalty and dedication a little misconstrued. There's some people who are very loyal to us, but they're not preferably dedicated to you. That might get a little gray. You might be looking at it like, yo, y'all not loyal to me. I think we throw loyalty out for a lot of things that mean like we demand or need a lot more. You know what I'm saying? But loyalty, I feel that. Loyalty, Miss J and Bernice said loyalty. You know, one thing for me, I think loyalty grows. And I think loyalty is tested. And I think when loyalty is tested, we don't give it enough room to grow. So when someone stumbles and you have a chance to, grow and build from that, it kind of gets cut off. But I think that's when it's tested. It's like strength, right? Think of strength, right? You don't know you're strong until you face the resistance. You know, if I could lift 100 pounds like nothing, right? It's nothing. But the moment I get to 200 pounds and someone see me straining and then I lift it, they be like, damn, son is strong. That's when the strength of it is tested. And I think when loyalty gets tested and someone is straining in the loyalty, you know what I'm saying? They straining in loyalty, we just automatically, are you weak? We don't give, and not just in loyalty, in dedication, in trust, and a lot of different things. I don't think we want the full package now, 100 battery life always. No time for charging, no time for sleep mode. Like, we want the 100% battery running for us 100% of the time. And I think that's just a moment of setting ourselves up for failure, y'all. I think it's setting ourselves for failure. But loyalty is a big one. And I think what disbands loyalty, and I would like to hear what troubles y'all with loyalty right now. I think loyalty, what messes up loyalty is the intent of why people are around you. Because people will be loyal to you for a motive. And it'll feel good for them to be loyal to you for a motive. But how do you test and gauge the loyalty if you don't give it a time to struggle? If it's always going good, how do you know it's not because they hoping for you to pop? You know what I'm saying? They doing everything for you to make it happen for them with no intent of building with you. How do we test loyalty? Or how do you? and I'm speaking to the viewers on TikTok and Instagram. How do you test loyalty? How do you gauge what that means for what's around you or who's around you? You know what I'm saying? How do we gauge that? I mean, please share, because it might be useful for somebody that's on. They could probably utilize that insight. I just want back what I give. You just want back what you give. Now I get that part. Shout out to Bernice. I want back what I give, right? But what if what you give is your strength beyond the person that could give it to you? You know what I'm saying? Like, what does that minimize their loyalty? Because they probably not as strong as you, or as fit. And I'm using those metaphors, like, just in the sense, like, I get what you're saying. I just want back what I give. But what if the pendulum, and usually a pendulum is this way, so the scale. What if the scale is you got more to offer? They can't give back. How do we accommodate for that in loyalty? Ms. Jackson, MJMG said endurance. Endurance is a very, I don't think we look at endurance when we think of equality in friendships or relationships. Endurance is really, it can be a very important part to loyalty and dedication and love and, respect. You know what I'm saying? It's very interesting when you think about relationships and people. It's very interesting, because I just used the word respect, and does that diminish, when someone has a dedicated loyalty but they don't respect? Can someone be loyal without respect to you? Is it possible? And if it is possible, is that something that you're willing to tolerate? You know what I'm saying? Are you willing to tolerate? Now that I think about it, I think it's a well-balanced combination. It's a well-balanced combination of traits that really make it work. You know what I'm saying? She said, no, they can't. So Bernice said they can't be loyal without respect. They can't be loyal without respect. I so want to challenge you on that. You know me, I'm over here like they can't be loyal without respect. So respect, in Bernice's sense, respect comes with loyalty, comes with respect. It has to come with respect. So they can't be loyal. Okay, I could kind of see that. Now, what if you in a relationship, if they respect me, they said if you respect me, then you have some loyalty. Yeah, I could see you having a respect, but you could respect somebody and not be loyal to them. My man said, we need to talk about this next week. I got a lot to say. Oh, my man, Nate, we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it. Because I met some loyal people to me. Not necessarily were respectful, but they necessarily weren't disrespect. And I think what happens with us is we look at loyalty and we give it new hats. When someone's loyal to us, we give them that, they're respecting us. But again, like loyal, they could be loyal for many different reasons. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't have to be, it don't even have to do with anything of you per se. So I think when we really assessing our friendships or our relationships or business ships or whatever it is we're doing, I think the assessment is not really giving them, just because they earned one, they automatically get grandfathered into a whole nother aspect. Like, this person is loyal to me, man. And what does that mean anyway? Like, what does loyal? That's another thing. I think we use these titles, and we give it this whole broad horizon of expectation and responsibility, and we don't even define the shit. You gotta be loyal to me to be in my circle. Okay, what does that mean? Like, does that mean I gotta follow you everywhere you go, call you every week or every day? When you say jump, I jump. Like, what does that mean? Like, I think that's another misconception, that we just throw titles on things with no true definition of what that means to us and the people we asking it for. You know what I'm saying? I always use this phrase. Like my friends, a few of my friends, they got the, yo, trust no one, and no friends and all that. And they got all these tattoos. And I say that I don't think there's no not trust anyone, but it's meeting them where we at. Like I got friends that I could put my credit cards in and I'll be like, yo, hold that down for me. I gotta bust a move. And I know it's good. And then I got a friend that I could put that credit card in his hand and he probably gonna bust a move. But that same friend who might bust a move, I could most definitely tell him like, yo, bro, I'm on the run. I need you to take care of my kids. I know my kids is good. But that same person that I could give my credit card to that won't do nothing, I might be like, yo, take care of my kids, and he can't even do it. Does that change the level of friendship? And for me, no, because I'm meeting my friend where he's at. Like, I'm not gonna put more expectation on my friend, because then I'm gonna be the only one disappointed at the end of it. Bernie said, my definition of loyalty is respect, commitment, and love. I like that. So now for you, right? And there's no wrong in that, right? There's no wrong in that. For you, the loyalty is respect, commitment, and love. Now you have to define what commitment and love looks like. Because what you just said, respect, commitment, and love, I might have what I think is respect, commitment, and love. And then just because I have it, we automatically think, okay, this person, and it's going to work. We still have to nurture the respect, loyalty, commitment, and love, and all those things to define what it means, not just for on my side or their side, but an individual. And when we're building, that's important, y'all. Like giving that space for growth and what it means to each other, like separately, like what it means to you, what it means to them, and then what it means for us. And I think when we going into partnerships or relationships, we so caught in what those things mean to us that we set up a whole agenda list, forgetting there's another individual that's gonna be a part of this equation, and we don't think about what it means to them. And then it's always gonna be bumping heads. It's always gonna be something. Miss Jackson said, new rule, just get Uncle Slick to rep me. Give me the money. If anybody wondering what the Uncle Slick reference is, shout out to Moon Groove. It's a movie called How We Gonna Make It. You could check that movie out right now. It's a short film on the MJMG Presents. That's MJMG Presents app. It's downloadable. It's free. It's a movie that I actually got to star in. I'm the antagonist. I'm not the protagonist. I'm the antagonist in the movie. I play a bad guy called Uncle Slick, and there's a famous line in there called "Give me the money," which was an improv line too. It was improv. Shout out to Derek Adafi who gave me a lot of freedom in just being Uncle Slick and building the character. That was super fun. But again, I want to shout you out, man. This is Dungeon Talk. I was flying solo today. Shout out to my co-host Nate, no IG. He got to jump on. I know he had, it's been a crazy 2 weeks for him. So a few people was asking about the show. I didn't want a month to go by and we ain't go on. So I said, you know what, I'm gonna come on, chop it up with the people. Hope I didn't bore you too much, but we'll be back with some more action with the Mad Podcaster next week. But I do want to send a shout out to everybody that's been jumping on and holding us down. Yo, Bernice, I see you. Miz 2770, much love to you for staying on. Shout out to Miss J. Shout out to Tim Dog, I see you. Yo, Nate, I see you. I Am Beats, I see you. Shout out to everybody that's rocking with us, man. And shout out to Golden 562. Much love, man. I'm Spud Brooklyn. This was Dungeon Talk. Just wanted to bring y'all some conversations. Nate will be back next week and we can get back to our scheduled programming. Much love. Be safe if you're in New York. I heard it was raining. And I don't know if it still is a storm. But be safe out there, y'all. Be safe. See y'all next week. I'm Spud. We out.